Jenson Button takes the checkered flag.
Undrivable, undrivable.
Button's a winner again.
The visibility is very, very bad.
The checkered flag is out and it weighs for Sebastian Vettel.
This is Formula One.
In the dry, dusty desert of Bahrain, the local miracle, the tree of life, is the only one that grows here. Some things in life are unexplained. Others are just unexpected.
Lewis Hamilton out. Felipe Massa has stopped out on the circuit.
Raikkonen into the wall.
2 out of 2 for Jenson Button.
You really can believe your eyes.
Heavy rain expected soon.
Someone needs to do a sunshine dance.
And now, it's time to really turn up the heat.
Wonderful move there by Vettel. Supreme driving. Red Bull have done it!
Great job, Sebastian.
So we've had the drama and controversy of Australia, the abandonment of Malaysia and the downpour of China. Stop 4 of this remarkable season is here in the Bahrainian desert. Just 5 years ago, the Sakir track was a dream. The reality today is that its tight corners, long straights and an uncompromising climate make it one of the challenges of the season. And they don't stop here. Barcelona is the next stop on the calendar before Monaco, Turkey and the British Grand Prix at Silverstone in mid-June. And there's also challenges for us aplenty here in the pit lane as well, not just dealing with the noise and dealing with the crowds, but also dealing with this heat. But before we discuss the heat in particular, David, we have got to talk about our outfits before we come on the television. This isn't good enough.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I would have thought adjoining rooms would have been sufficient to make sure we don't wear the same outfits.
Guys, have you ever seen such an absolute disasters in your life? 2 clashing pairs of pink shirts. Why didn't you tell me I had to wear pink?
Well, actually, I think this helps bring out the sparkle in your blue eyes, Eddie.
I know Eddie will be in pink
terrible.
come next week. Anyway, let's talk about today. And if it's tough for us standing in this heat, DC, just explain what the drivers go through around this track.
Yeah, they'll have been drinking litres and litres of fluid this morning, making sure that they're topped up for this very hot race. The conditions in the cockpit incredibly demanding on the driver. Also for the teams, they're pushed to try and have to control the cooling of the engine, the brakes, all of those other issues, which is why we see some performance issues in this track.
And Eddie, Brawn have done it, Red Bull have done it. Could we be set for our 3rd maiden win of what would be a pretty special start to the season if we did get a hat-trick today from Toyota?
Well, I'm very grateful to David for congratulating me on my wise choice of Toyota for pole today. Can't be certain, Jarno truly has that self-destruct button somewhere locked away and he keeps it for special occasions. Let's hope it's not here for him at that case, because I think Toyota have done enough. They've gradually grown to this level. They're very strong, very capable, and to be qualifying 1st and 2nd, I'd really like to see them win here.
OK, well, it could be a very tough day indeed for the World Championship leader, Jenson Button. He's surrounded by Kurz cars off the grid, and of course, he doesn't have the boost of that extra power. However, he does have the comfort of a 6-point lead in the Drivers' Championship. His closest challenger is Rubens Barrichello, with Sebastian Vettel and Timo Glock both on 10 points. Mark Webber and Jarno Trulli just behind them, with 4 drivers on 4. And let's have a quick look at the constructors' battle. This really has been Brawn-dominated so far. They've got a 16.5-point lead over Red Bull. Toyota are a further point back, and certainly room for improvement from McLaren, BMW and Renault. Ferrari remain pointless. Right, it's just about 45 minutes to go until the race gets underway and it's lights out here in Bahrain, and we've got an awful lot to pack in and not a lot to do it. We'll be discussing just what are the problems for Ferrari very shortly, and also a world exclusive chat with Lewis Hamilton. Find out how the world champion is feeling very shortly. But first, yesterday was an historic qualifying session, and Ted Kravitz can now guide us through.
Qualifying in the 38-degree Bahrain heat called for a cool head, a slow hand, and a steady car underneath. The Toro Rossos were out in the first session, when we also witnessed a poor piece of driving from Adrian Sutil with this crude attempt to block Mark Webber.
It's the worst corner to get nailed on, because I had nowhere to go really in the last corner, and then he slipstreamed past me to start the next lap, so then the next lap is gone for me, so absolute disaster.
Will you apologise to him? Will you go and speak to him?
Well, yeah, I think I will do it now, absolutely.
The apology was accompanied by a 3-place penalty for the German. The under-pressure Nelson Piquet was satisfied to make it into Q2 for the first time this season, but less pleased with the BMWs. A small pit fire, the least of their worries. They are a second per lap off the pace here.
To be honest, it's the first time I have this problem twice in a row. It's already hot, with some flames more it's even hotter, but yeah, fortunately everything ended up well.
Heikki Kovalainen went into qualifying under-prepared after an electrical glitch in practice, so was dissatisfied with 11th. But a remarkable performance from Lewis Hamilton brought some cheer to the boss ahead of McLaren's FIA trial on Wednesday, and a glimmer of optimism from Lewis.
Very proud of what the team have done. They've done a great job. The car was feeling a lot better this weekend, even though we didn't really make too many updates this weekend. It was actually one. But I enjoy driving the car, and I'm looking forward to many more updates coming in the future.
A slightly agitated Fernando Alonso swerved his way to 7th on the grid, but with Kurz on board, has a good chance to score some points today. This is how many people it takes to keep 2 Ferraris on the road, but in the front of the garage, Kimi Raikkonen used up all his new tyres in Q1 and Q2, leaving him with only old rubber for Q3.
Until the last qualifying, but then we didn't have any tyres, so we couldn't really achieve what we want. But apart from that, the car was not too bad.
Evidence of how fast F1 fortunes change came courtesy of Brawn. The championship leaders only have the 3rd fastest car here.
Compared to the whole field, we don't have the pace we did in the first 3 races. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough race tomorrow. It's not going to be a walk in the park.
Hoping to mirror their victory in China were Red Bull Racing. Sebastian Vettel hasn't been out of the top 3 in qualifying all season and has real race-winning pace in the longer runs.
I think this result today proves that everyone doesn't or didn't lose the focus. I think it's a very, very important step for the team and also for myself. So, you know, in the end, hopefully China was just one step and in reaching our goal. So it's a long, long way. We have to work and fight hard. It's a long season.
But quicker than anyone else were Toyota. They have high tyre wear here, so they've gone for a 3-stop strategy. No surprise then that with less fuel on board, they locked out the front of the grid.
Struggled a bit in qualifying 1 with the wind. The wind changed a bit, but at the end, you know, I think it was we just got everything together, put everything together, and it was a smooth qualifying for us without any trouble, and that's the result of it.
Things have been a little bit up and down, but now this year finally we seem to have gone on the right path and on the right direction, and we are all fighting for the top 3. So now it's time to get the first win.
So with Trulli dedicating his achievement to his earthquake-affected home region, he lines up on pole for the 4th time in his career. Timo Glock did a poor lap, slower than Trulli and carrying less fuel. Vettel and Button ready to attack from the 2nd row. Lewis Hamilton 5th, his best of the season, ahead of Alonso and Massa, winners here for the last 4 years. Kimi Raikkonen only 10th, while Kubica is best of the BMWs in 13th, and then Piquet's Renault and Sebastian Buemi again out-qualifying teammate Sebastian Bourdais. Adrian Sutil is on the back row after his penalty for blocking Mark Webber.
Seriously hard luck for Mark Webber yesterday, but I'm just here in the Toyota garage, and you know, these engineers, these mechanics are a pretty chilled out bunch. Toyota's greatest ever performance in qualifying, and they're hanging around like they're preparing for a walk in the park, not for a race out here in the desert under the sun. And this is the car that Jarno Trulli will try and take to Toyota's first ever win, and it's another sign that there's a real re-emergence of some of the teams here in Formula One. A brand new pecking order is establishing itself with the likes of Brawn, Red Bull and Toyota right at the front. In fact, so far this season, it seems the bigger you are, the harder you fall.
It was a dream that became reality, a symbol that embodied prowess and superiority, a trademark which represented an entire country. In 1951, this car took Ferrari to its first ever Formula One victory. In 2009, this car hasn't managed to score a championship point. The unbeaten record of 16 World Championships and 209 victories does not look like being further advanced in the near future.
I believe we can have a good race. You know, if we're gonna win or not is a different stuff. But I believe we can be more competitive. We can score good points, and as I said, we need to start our championship because for the moment we didn't start yet.
You were on the podium here last year. With the current state of the car, do you think that's achievable this weekend?
Well, I mean, with a normal race, probably not, but you never know. I mean, we were testing here, the car felt pretty good here, so we'll see how we can do tomorrow. But I mean, if you're looking in the first two races, we haven't had the speed to be on a podium, really, so let's wait and see.
And that is Villeneuve, who has spun off at Tarzan corner.
If motorsport and drama go hand in hand, then Ferrari would have a leading role in the opera. But now it comes down to a performance of a very different nature.
And one of the Ferraris is pulling off, and that is Didier Pironi.
Not since 1981 has the Italian manufacturer scored no points by this stage of the season. And if no points are scored this weekend, then it will be the worst start in Ferrari's illustrious history. But is it speed or direction that creates Ferrari perfection? Many of the great drivers associated with the team have possessed both.
The drivers are no doubt very good. One of them is world champion with Kimi, and Felipe Massa last year he fought until the last meters, the last seconds I will say. So that is no doubt. The management, it's some few new people and old people, so I'm sure they are missing something technically, they are not quick enough.
The great Michael Schumacher says not to write off Ferrari just yet, but times are tough and the clock is ticking.
First of all, there's no reason to think back and say, when was the last year? That's not the way. We need to look forward. We need to solve the issue that we have. For sure, I think that the big disappointment of the start of the season, that even if we have, for sure, not the best car in terms of performance, we could have scored some points in the first races. This is the big disappointment. But apart from that, the only thing I can say is I see the team very concentrated to try to, to recover the situation. And the most important thing is to work at home in order to bring as soon as possible the development. That is at the end of the day, the most important thing, the only thing that is really needs to arrive as quick as possible here.
For now, though, the prancing horse is injured and a war horse needs to evolve. But will it win the battle, or has it been mortally wounded?
Well, Eddie, it seems that everybody's having their two penneth worth about Ferrari, including some former Ferrari world champions. Michael Schumacher says you can never write them off. Niki Lauda has said it's a return to the spaghetti culture. Where do you stand?
Well, I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't necessarily subscribe to those arguments. I think they are just rebuilding themselves. They're certainly missing Ross Brawn. They're certainly missing Jean Todt and Rory Byrne, who was a big influence behind the technology. When they get themselves together, they'll be fine, but they're probably going to miss out on this year.
And if we take a look behind us, DC, we can actually see Felipe Massa. He's just popped his in-ears in. He's standing, looking very composed, very calm at the back of the car there. At a time like this, how much does the team rely on the drivers to lift them? And do you think both Kimi and Felipe are doing enough?
Well, I think the drivers are absolutely pivotal to the whole atmosphere within the team. And inevitably, it's easy to have the team around you when things are going well. But when things are not going so well, that's when the drivers really have to dig deep. Kimi, I've already commented that I think he's a great talent, but I'm not sure as to how much workload he puts in away from the racetrack. Felipe, he seems to still have the enthusiasm for the job, so I've got to presume that he's capable of doing it.
Well, my pink isn't quite the same as this Ferrari red, so I think I'll jump out of the garage there and head down here to McLaren. Just a quick reminder and a timely reminder that there's only just over half an hour to go to the race, and if you want during the race you can tune into our coverage via the red button, press red for some extra data feeds. You can also hear some children's BBC commentary and also some 5 Live commentary on there. You can also watch the race live on our website as well, and as we go off air we've also got, of course, the red button F1 forum, and we'd love your emails, f1@bbc.co.uk. But let's just quickly pop in here because you can see it's the Lewis Hamilton garage. And if there's one guy who really has kept himself to himself so far this season, it's Lewis Hamilton. While his debut season as world champion has been dogged by criticism and controversy, he's cut a pretty lonely figure in the paddock, and he's hardly said a word until now. I caught up with him on Friday night.
Lewis, I remember when we met in Woking before the start of the season, you said to me with a big smile on your face, you want to enjoy this season and enjoy being the Formula One world champion. Have you had a chance to do that, do you think?
It's probably, I wouldn't say I've particularly had a relaxing season so far, but I'm definitely enjoying my time here in Bahrain, and there have been a couple of races in China. I was enjoying my time there, so I have tried to enjoy it more, but it's been pretty tough.
Let's talk about how you felt for the last few weeks. I know you described it, I think, probably as the lowest point in your life, I think you said, maybe when you went in front of the media. How hard has it been for the past few weeks?
It's been incredibly hard. I'm sure that a lot of my fans, at least, have probably had an idea of how tough it's been, but I've been away for a while, but to really go through such a low with the team after such great success last year. We wanted to start the season, and we wanted to start on a real high, and we wanted to keep pushing regardless of whether we got a not such a great car at the moment. We just wanted to improve and just stay quiet, and clearly that was not the case. But personally, it was just, I race because I love racing. This has been my dream for many, many years, and I never ever thought I'd get here and be in this position. So, but the greatest thing was that I had so much support. Was really the key to. Otherwise, I probably would have cracked. I probably would have been hiding somewhere. You know, it was very, very tough with all the cameras on you, interviews, all these different things.
What must be really difficult is the way that things can get written about you when all you want to do is put the focus on the car, put the focus on the racing. You know, one of the main criticisms was your sporting integrity. And honesty and integrity is so important for a sportsman. How painful was it for you to have that called into question?
The harder you work, the better you'll do. And that's how it's always been. And I still feel on the track I've always been one of the most fairest drivers out there. But for sure, to have that called into question was tough to hear.
Are you still enjoying being a Formula One driver? Because I have to say, I've seen you around the paddock the last few days, and you don't sort of have a bounce or an air of excitement and happiness. Are you still enjoying it? Is it still giving you the buzz that you got into the sport for?
No. There's nothing else to say about it, really. I love driving the car. I love my job. There's nothing that anyone can take away from me in that sense. But for sure, you know, when you're just surrounded by politics and all these different things going on, you know, I'm here to just have fun and entertain and win and race my heart out. That's all I'm here to do. But everyone has to have an opinion about everything.
You talk about you still have the buzz, you still have the desire and the love for Formula One. Do you still have the love for McLaren? I saw an interview with you. You seemed unable to say that you would definitely stay with McLaren for the next 5 years. Why did you find it difficult to commit when you have signed a 5-year contract?
My commitment should never be questioned because I'm very committed to the sport. I'm very, very committed to my team. I love this team. I've been here for many years. It's been since I was 10 years old. I said that's who I wanted to drive for, and I'm driving for him now. And we won a world championship together. We just missed a world championship together. And there's going to be many, many more years that we work together where we win or we lose. We have bad seasons. But the great thing is that we're a team, and it's very much a family environment. I'm happy where I am. I have no desires to move anywhere else. I think when I spoke about it was because I wasn't 100% sure whether I'd be here for the next 5 years. So,
what sowed that seed of doubt in your mind?
It was just tough, you know. There's so much going on. Do I want to be in the limelight where people are slating me? Or do I want to be in the spotlight where I can't even go to fish and chip shop and have, you know, or go to the cinema and have fun without people taking pictures of me. But that's the, you know, if I want to race this car and if I want to continue enjoying this, that's what I've got to do.
And have you made that decision? Have you now decided you will put up with all of the bad stuff just to keep driving an F1 car?
I definitely have,
For
like
sure?
I said, because and it's because of my fans. Regardless of what anyone else says, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give it 110% always. And there'll be times where I don't do so well. I'm human, you know, but there'll be times where I rock the socks off of it, and I hope you enjoy it. They're going to continue to support me, and I really just want to embrace them and say thank you to all of them. They've been fantastic.
Well, the pit lane's open here at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Cars are making their way out to the grid. Lewis Hamilton, as you can see there, is in his car, and I imagine right now he's feeling quite happy, DC, because the thing that I thought from that interview is that the only thing really left that he's loving in Formula One right now is driving the car. It makes his face light up.
Yeah, indeed. That's his home, that's his office, and that's where he feels comfortable. And, you know, he's learning that you've got to take the good with the bad in this game, and it's easy when you're winning and everyone's praising you, but when the criticism comes, it hurts. But he's a young man, he'll grow through it.
And do you think in some ways going through something like this will in the long run benefit him as a driver, benefit him as a Formula One big player?
I think that he'll grow stronger through this experience. These are life's experiences. He's just living these out in the public eye.
OK, well, Lewis is just leaving the grand finals. Let's just watch his car leave. Well, there he goes. There's a man on a mission, starting from 5th place on the grid today. And I know there's an awful lot of Lewis Hamilton fans at home. You'll be delighted he's put in his greatest qualifying performance of the season so far. It wasn't quite anything to match Jarno Trulli, who really did make it look easy in quali yesterday. However, this is a track that really does test the drivers, and it's a test that DC knows all too well.
The Sakhir circuit for the Bahrain Grand Prix, 3.4 miles, a long pit straight, very hot and potentially sandy too.
Well, the circuit may be in the middle of the desert, but we're in the middle of turn 1. DC, what do you think of this first turn leading into turn 3?
Well, as you point out, it is actually completely linked. The apex that you take through turn 1 will dictate how much speed you can carry through turn 2. I find it quite a frustrating corner in many ways. You see there's a little bit of a roll into the apex here. Can't use the curb because of the height of the rumble strip as you roll in. And it's all about getting the drive off to make sure you can be flat through this second part of the corner.
Plenty of runoff. They're doing a test over there, an emergency simulation, changing the tyres at the back there. So you feel pretty safe turning up here at the thick end of 200 miles an hour?
No issues. I've actually had a brake failure here in 2003 in the McLaren where the disc exploded as I hit the brakes. A lot of demands on the braking on this circuit.
So out of 3, up the hill towards turn 4, a good overtaking opportunity.
Approached at 180 miles an hour, heavy braking, second gear, just 60 through the apex, opens up on the exit, a sweeping chicane down the hill into the heart of the turn 8 hairpin.
Turns 9 and 10 I always found very difficult. Arrived at 150 miles an hour, blind, and you've got to lose 100 miles an hour in this short section here into a very tight turn 10.
You know, this hairpin here, there's just no pleasure in this corner for the drivers, but there is a lot of lap time. It's the sort of corner where if you're greedy on the entry, you'll pay the price on exit by being slow all the way down to turn 11. So I think you see a lot of action during the practice sessions as the drivers try to find their braking zone.
Sebastian Vettel too brave on the brakes. Let's compare the white brawn of Jenson Button and the silver McLaren of Hamilton. Button has taken a generally tighter line into turn 10, then runs a better apex speed and is ultimately faster.
So turn 12 then, a flat out 165 mile an hour corner, long and sweeping, quite good.
Yeah, this sequence actually, out of 11 and up through 12 here, one of the fastest sections on the track, very demanding on the driver. They'll be pulling close to 4G. Ironically enough, there's no spectator areas here at all to see the cars at full speed.
No spectators, but plenty of sand to make this critical line slippery.
Yeah, and as the race goes on, you'll have the build-up of rubber offline as well. So there's plenty of challenges for the driver in getting this area right. You can see how they've cut away at the track here to create the actual line. So 0.1% chance of rain here this weekend, but a reasonable chance of having a small sandstorm, which will definitely affect balance and grip.
Let's take a look at the end of the lap.
Which is turn 13 at 120 miles an hour, a long straight, and then the final section. Let's watch Felipe Massa pushing too hard, 100 miles an hour through this apex. He gets greedy though, gets on the throttle too early and runs wide. His tyres are now dirty. Sebastian Vettel in the Red Bull, still chasing the car hard through the apex there, but he's neater and tidier on the exit, gets good drive towards the finish line. He's third on the grid behind the 2 Toyotas and carrying a decent fuel load too.
I tell you, this really is an incredible circuit. You drive through the desert and suddenly this huge tower that you can see and all of these wonderful grandstands just appear behind you. Let's have a quick mention about Toyota. We've been discussing Ferrari, discussing McLaren. The guys that have secured the grid have really hardly got a mention. Do you think today could be Toyota's day, Eddie?
I have a good feeling about Toyota because when you're first and second on the grid, for sure Glock will be told, even though he has a slightly less fuel load, Jarno should go into the distance, and if Glock is sensible, he'll make sure nobody passes him. Of course in a sporting way, but you know, Jarno truly, he did this once before in Monaco. He had pole and he went on to win the race. I think he can win it. At least it's his to lose at this stage.
Will allow the cars to make their way to the grid without trying to fight against them. The general consensus this season, though, is that so far Toyota are kind of flattered to deceive, really. They've promised more than they've delivered, and that's almost the history of their time in the sport, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, well, we're only race 4 of the season, so we've had a fairly remarkable start to the year with all the weather issues and what have you. So I think what they've shown is that they're one of the 3 teams that have been setting the pace right from the word go, along with Braun and Red Bull. They've taken a strategy to get themselves in the front row. I agree with Eddie that Glock should play the wingman and allow Trulli to run at the front. If they don't do that, then Sebastian Vettel will jump them at the pit stops and win this Grand Prix.
OK, there could be some celebrations at the Cologne Basin right across Japan if Toyota go all the way today. And 7 days ago, Martin Brundle was fighting umbrellas to try and get to the drivers away from the rain. Today, no doubt he's fighting umbrellas because the drivers will be hiding from the sun. Let's wish him all the very best with his grid walk. Martin, over to you.
Several challenges on the grid here today for the drivers. Quite a stiff tailwind down this very long pit straight. Of course, they're locked out on their 7th gear ratio. It's a long run down to the first corner as well. They're going to be bouncing away on the rev limiter, especially if they're in a slipstream. But apparently the KERS cars, with that extra energy, 80 horsepower, gained 13 metres down to the first corner. That's a complete row on the grid. All sorts of fascinating people on the grid today. Now, if you don't have some Led Zeppelin and Stairway to Heaven on your iPod, then you really should. Robert Plant apparently doesn't want to talk today on the TV, which I'm gutted about. I met Bobby Moore once a long time ago, and Robert Plant is a man I really wanted to talk to. I'm going to catch him later. He doesn't want to be interviewed at all, but here's a man I think will, Eric Clapton. I even asked Eric to try to talk Robert into it, and Eric, how are
Martin,
you?
Very well. Very well.
I
tried to get him to talk, but Robert, no, yeah.
I'm going to go and doorstep him personally later.
Yeah.
But about you waving the flag last year, but you're back again. You love this Formula One stuff.
Well, I love Ferrari, you know. I mean, I love Grand Prix from the day I was born, so I'm just happy to come when I can. And this is a great venue. It's my favourite venue.
And how are you coping with Ferrari not going so well then?
They'll be all right. They'll be all right. It's just a question of time. Couple more races.
All right, well, I'm going to let you get on to the grid. I know you. All right, good to see you. Thank you, Eric. Right, I wonder if Jarno Trulli is around. He's the man on pole position. And as ever, I think he's gone straight off the grid. We've got Timo Glock there being interviewed. Normally he's listening to David Hasselhoff, isn't he, on his music player. We'll wander in here. Who we got here? Vettel. And I think a lot of the drivers, this is the cool side of the grid, by the way, incidentally, not because it's trendy, but because it's in the shadow of this rather impressive grandstand here. But as I was saying to you, 7th gear down here, locked out because of the regulations. They can't change it. And if they do pick up a heavy tailwind, they're going to be in difficulty. Trulli, sadly, has left the grid, so we'll wander back as and when we can. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of Bahrain.
Hello, Martin.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good.
It's a little bit hot, I must admit.
Oh, right. Well, if you think it's hot, imagine how we're feeling at the moment.
It must be boiling, but this is racing, and I guess it's racing in the Middle East, so it's one of the challenges that's going to make this race even more interesting.
You're absolutely right, sir. This is going to be a fascinating Grand Prix without any doubt. Who's your personal favourite today?
Oh, I have none. I'm very careful not to make predictions. I just hope we have a safe and successful race. And I want to say hello to all the fans, and I hope you enjoyed as well.
Okay, and thank you for giving us such wonderful hospitality here for the 6th race in Bahrain for the Grand Prix.
Thank you.
See you later. Cheers. Bye-bye. And let's move on down the grid and see if young Jenson Button is here. Whenever we talk to him, he heads off and wins the race. Now, where are all the Grand Prix drivers? Absolutely fascinating, isn't it? They've just basically had to come and park their cars on the grid, and then they leg it. They're just out of here, leaving this army of people to set his car up. What's going on here? Do you know? What are you guys doing? Do you mind telling us? What are you doing?
No, we can't really say.
He can't really say. I don't think he would be able to, but something big is going on there at the moment, and setting something up on the car. Now, I know that Ross said yesterday that they've got a little bit of overheating issues on this car. They're busy setting some parameters on the grid there on that lap top. And let's wander over and have a word with Daddy Button. We don't see so much of him these days. Big John, how's Jensen feeling about this one?
Well, I think he's a bit concerned because of the heat. I mean, it's just absolutely staggering, and I think keeping everything cool is going to be a major problem, but it won't be just us. Obviously, generally, it's going to be the same down through the grid, so...
Now, you know him better than anybody. How's he handling the pressure of leading the World Championship?
Honestly, none at all. It's made him even more chilled, honestly, and I'm just saying that being a dad. He's just so totally relaxed. It's unbelievable. I mean, he's in a great situation compared to what he's been the last 2 years, if you think. So no, it's just same guy, just a bit more.
I see a different Jensen this year. Like, the winter's changed him. He seems to have grown up a bit. There's a bit of chippiness gone out of him, and I find him an easier man to go and talk to be honest.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He's definitely more chilled. I mean, he had an awful lot on his mind the last 2 years and over the winter as well. And obviously it did get to him. Although we covered it up quite well, you're quite right. He's more chirpy now and more approachable.
Good luck today. Let's wander over. We understand Rubens Barrichello is loitering in the shade here somewhere. I'd like to have a word with him. Oldest man on the grid. Started more Grand Prix than anybody else. He should know exactly how tough it's going to be today. Let's see if we can approach him. Ruby? He's never going to say no. He's such a good boy. Right, what can you tell us about this race today?
It's one of those days that if you went to the beach, it's so hot that you would go back home and say, I'll come back tomorrow, it's too hot. So it's going to be quite crazy for everyone on the water temperatures of the engine.
Well, it's 37 degrees ambient, the track is over 50 degrees, saying at 51 I'm just hearing. So Ross told me that your car's got a little bit of a problem with possible overheating. How are you going to manage that?
Yeah, we have to be in free air. You know, we have a very, very nice situation with the tires. Not nice for qualify, but nice for the race. So we hope we can make up ground. But we do. We have to. If you see us backing off, it's because we have to save.
So when you leave the grid, you're looking in your mirrors, presumably, for these cars with an extra 80 horsepower punching out to the turn one.
It's going to be fun. That's for sure. It's. I hope I can get a good getaway. In Malaysia, we were expecting the same, and I had a fantastic getaway and got to the corner gaining places. But for sure, I mean, you have the likes of Lewis and Alonso here really enjoying their moments with the cars.
What are you going to play when you put those in your ears when I get out of your face?
It's Brazilian music. You won't like it.
Okay. Thanks, Rubens, for your time. I'll try not to tread on my own cables here. And what else can we do? Let's see who else we can find on the grid today. Is Pat Simmons over here. Pat, you got any problems on the Renault here? Temperatures, brakes, what are the issues during this Grand Prix?
Well, I wouldn't say we got problems, but the temperature is 6 degrees higher than we predicted. The wind hasn't turned into the headwind that we predicted, so it's going to be hot and we're going to be high on revs.
Now, where do you think you can finish in this Grand Prix? What would be your dream result today? Obviously winning, but where do you realistically?
Realistically, I think, fuel corrected, we're sort of 6th, 7th place, and that's unfortunately where we have to be heading for today. We'll see if we can get something a bit better out of it, but that's our pace right now.
Okay, thanks for your time there, Pat. And we got Mr. Ecclestone in a red jacket here. He's with the boss, Mr. Botan, I think it is, a boss of Santander, who I don't think he's the sponsor of this race, but we've got to ask Bernie about that ridiculous jacket, haven't we, if we get half a chance. Don't know if I can doorstep him for the 37th time this weekend, but you know what? I'm too embarrassed for him. I'm not going to ask him about that. Pasquale, what is this jacket all about? Did you do that?
No, absolutely. Santander president, I wanted that. You better ask Bernie instead.
No, I've doorstepped him so many times this weekend, and he's got the Crown Prince standing there as well. Let's see if we can find a final soundbite from let's have 30 seconds from Felipe Massa or a complete ignoring. What do you think? Yeah, top man. Sorry to butt in, mate. 5 million people here, really desperate to know in 20 seconds what's going through your mind. What can you do today?
I think the most important thing now is to think about finish the race, what we didn't do in the first races. So I want to finish, and I hope with good points.
So yeah, so you'll be happy with the finish today and just a handful of points to take to Spain. Yeah. Okay, any challenges for your car? You have to be careful with the brakes?
Well, not a major issue, but for sure in the hot race.
And I think we'll have a little chat very shortly about just what is going to happen during the race. But first, having spoken about Ferrari, spoken about Lewis, we've got just one last thing to bring you. We now know which car was the quickest during quali, but which car is actually the quickest. Here's Ted to explain.
Jarno Trulli was half a second quicker than teammate Glock in qualifying, and this is what it looks like in real time. Both Toyotas are on light fuel, so that explains their qualifying pace. Vettel, the star of the two stopping drivers, and with more fuel than Button, is best placed to win the race. Barrichello slower than Hamilton and with less fuel. The fuel-adjusted times show the biggest upset in car performance since the season started. The Toyota is now the quickest car, closely followed by the Red Bull, while Brawn have dropped back. But with the top three cars all within 0.4 of a second of each other, we're set for a fascinating Grand Prix. In the midfield, the McLarens have made the biggest gain since Shanghai. They found over half a second in a week. Ferrari are faster than they were in China, with KERS working again, and BMW have dropped back again. So Timo Glock, the first to stop on lap 11, a classic three-stop strategy. Trulli should go to 14 and could even do a short first stint two-stop. Alonso's on 14, with Button and Hamilton 1 lap longer. Sebastian Vettel well placed going to 17, Raikkonen 21, and Robert Kubica 1 stopping on lap 30.
Well, looking at that, David, it seems that the lack of pace for the Brawns is genuine. They're not carrying a huge amount of fuel, are they?
Yeah, but we have to appreciate these hot conditions here. Obviously, cooling issues, as Martin mentioned with his conversation with Ross. You have to open out the radiators, you have to run bigger brake ducts. All of those things create more disturbance in the wind, affects your aerodynamics. So that's the wonderful thing about a Grand Prix season. We go to so many different tracks and they put so much different demands on the cars.
We saw them working away on the Brawn on the grid. Not ideal, that, Eddie. But was it always going to happen that a Gremlins would appear in the Brawn system? They were so late getting the new engine into the car. This is still a fledgling setup for them.
Well, there's a couple of things. David touched on it. The full reality is that the first couple of races were obviously either wet or cooler, and it's possible that they haven't got enough cooling in this car, and cooling is horsepower. If you can keep it cool, you'll get more horsepower. It's a simple fact of life. So therefore I'm a little bit concerned going into a European season. They have to keep making gains on the aerodynamics to make sure that the flow of air and clean air to the radiators gives them that benefit. So they have an issue, there's no doubt about that. But just on that funny side, Barrichello has just told me he's going to be the first astronaut into space. So Mr. Virgin himself says so. And so we wish him luck. I don't know when he's going to do that, but hopefully not during his racing career.
It's ironic, isn't it? Just as they get the Virgin Galactica logo on the side of the car, it's looking less and less like a rocket ship with every passing race. But there you go, that's the way it rolls sometimes, isn't it? Well, Eddie seems slightly worried about how Brawn are going to cope. I'm sure there's one man here who's very relaxed indeed. We saw just how good Sebastian Vettel is looking with that fuel on board. So let's get the race strategy for him from the team principal of Red Bull, Christian Horner. He's been chatting to Lee.
Christian, after the fantastic victory last week, how much of a boost does that give the entire team as we go into today's race?
Oh, it's a massive boost. Unfortunately, I haven't had long to enjoy it because we've gone straight into the next event. But it's a great result for everyone, in China, back in Milton Keynes, and throughout Red Bull. So, they enjoyed it, but quickly the focus turned immediately to this race.
Now, the Toyotas are up front, but Sebastian looks as if he's sitting pretty strategy-wise. Were you happy when you saw the weights and how things were looking?
Yeah, very happy. I mean, his running Q2 was, exceptional. And we could see that we got the fastest car out there without fuel in. So we went long with our fuel strategy, which buys us options today. We can go either a two-stop or a three-stop, and we'll just see how the race unfolds. So for sure the Toyotas are going to be quick, but we need a good start, and we don't need Lewis coming past us into turn one.
Well, I'm sure it makes it even more painful for Mark Webber to realise that Sebastian Vettel has got a race-winning car under him. So, of course, Mark has the same thing. Is there any way the rules can be changed so that if a driver is blocked in qualifying like Mark was, the penalty for him is taken away? OK, they've given a penalty to Adrian Sutil, but Mark's penalty is far greater than that.
Well, it is indeed, and that's just unfortunately one of the side effects of motorsport. 3-place penalty doesn't seem like a reasonable penalty when you consider Sebastian Vettel, for instance, in Australia was given a 10-place penalty for that coming together with Kubica. So it's always the great debate afterwards. What is the correct penalty for the crown?
OK, quick mention about BMW. This time last year, Robert Kubica was on pole here. They tested here over the winter, and the drivers are making unhappy noises about the fact that they're not pleased with the development of the car already. Have they got a point? Are you surprised BMW haven't brought some extra bits for the car?
Well, first of all, absolutely. The drivers are brave. They are not clones in this world. They're doing a hugely important job. They've every right. And it's a must. The driver has to drive the rest of the team in cases like this. And clearly BMW have not come to the party. The drivers you would expect to be vociferous, strong and voiced in what they're doing. So full support to them.
OK, well, one man who has come to the party is Luca Di Montezemolo. He's the Ferrari president. He's turned up here probably to give everyone a little bit of a boost, but at the same time let them know the pressure's on for Ferrari. No points today. It's their worst ever start to a season. What will the pressure be like in that garage?
Incredibly high, I would imagine. And talking with Stefano Domenicali yesterday, he's trying to find the positives out of this terrible start to the season. I've actually been surprised that Mr. Di Montezemolo hasn't said anything so far. You know, normally he's not shy about making a public statement, but maybe he's holding it back for this weekend, so I hope for them they're able to get a result.
Ferrari, of course, are carrying Kurz. There's a few cars carrying Kurz. How much of a